You're listening to the Patriot Nation Podcast.
Welcome into another edition of the Patriot Nation Podcast. This, of course, is a Pats Nation post-game report for preseason game number 2. This is brought to you by Prize Picks and Game Time. And as always, you by Pat Lane, here with my guy, Matt St. Jean. And Matt, a little bit of a different feel to this preseason game than there was last week.
Yeah, the preseason opener was a win, felt like a loss. Tonight was a loss, felt like a win.
That's right.
We got to see Drake Maye, and he looked good. And a lot of stuff going on in New England these days, but that is really all that matters to me right now.
100%. And, you pointed it out on Twitter or X, whatever the hell people want to call it now. On the touchdown by Drake Maye, every single offensive rookie the Patriots drafted outside of Joe Milton was on the field for that touchdown. And that's really cool. That's really something you like to see.
Yeah, and it's, we were talking about a youth movement here in New England and just getting that moment, especially because right before the snap, I realized, I think everybody's out there but Milton.
Yeah.
And then immediately you get the touchdown run. And I think that's going to be probably your highlight big moment from this game. There's another one we'll talk about. But yeah, it looked exactly like what we had seen Drake Maye do at UNC. 16 rushing touchdowns for the Tar Heels, and like half of them looked exactly like that. Get it within the 5 and run some kind of read option because he's hard to stop down there. He's fast. He's a big guy. He's hard to take down. And as long as your offense is, somewhat decent and defenses are respecting the other things that you have to do, it's just one extra thing that has to be defended. And a lot of times defense just can't do it.
100%. I thought originally that had been a pass that he decided to run in. Because, of course, I'm watching at home. I'm watching there, and it was on the far. I sit in the end zone, as people that watch the show know. I sit in the end zone, and so it's on the other side of the field from me. I saw Jaheim Bell outside. I didn't know what he was doing. Turns out he's blocking. Right, that was a designed run all the way. Maybe it was going to Hasty. Maybe Maye was keeping it. Either way, it was going to be a run and not a pass. And so to have the ability to do that, they haven't been able to do that. Since they had Cam Newton here, they haven't had a quarterback that can run the ball and throw the ball since Steve Grogan. So,
Hey, let's not disparage 1,000-yard rusher Tom Brady.
It's a great point. That's a great point. But you can, you really can see, some of those flashes. And, it's not a guarantee that it's going to all be good because it's not all going to be good. But I was impressed with how he handled it tonight.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of really good moments for Drake Maye tonight. We can kind of run through them all right now if we want. I think that's your big takeaway. The first one, I think, was him getting hit for the first time. I think that's a good moment for him. There's pressure. He scrambles, cuts the distance to the first down marker in half with his feet. Gets a little hit in the process, and it's like, all right, you're getting into the NFL. You're checking off some of those boxes where it's like, all right, now I don't have to worry about it. I've got hit before, that's just, we're in this now. And immediately following that up with converting on the third down on a pass concept involving your 2 rookie wide receivers on the same side, one where he has to read the full field of progressions to get to it, delivers it perfectly in stride. And they talked about it so this is something you would have missed, Pat, being there. They talked about this on the broadcast. So the passing concept that they called for that first third down conversion that Maye had, it's a pretty common one these days where you have 2 receivers on the same side. One of them runs some kind of a short route, like a little hitch, and the other one runs the deep in behind it. And the idea is that you're going to have that the underneath defender either has to pick the hitch or the in. He has to pick one of those to defend, and he can't do both.
Right.
And it's a classic concept. Patriots ran it all out last year. You see it all around the NFL. And Maye apparently had told the broadcast team that in practice, he's been hitting it a lot by going to the underneath guy. And he really wanted to be able to push it downfield and get to the intermediate guy. First big play of the game, got to move the chains, and he hits that. That is the kind of progression that you absolutely love to see out of a rookie quarterback.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know it was really nice. And those are the nuanced things that, sometimes we don't see. And it's nice that they're able to talk about that on the broadcast. Also, I got to give a shout out to my guy, Nick, over here. Shout outs, Ryan Allen. And here's why. I was at the game today inside the new Sports Illustrated Pavilion. I saw Nick wearing a red Ryan Allen jersey, which is just incredible.
That's fantastic.
Unbelievable. So I had to walk over, gave him and the whole crew a sticker that he was with, and told him we'd be live on YouTube. And here he is. And so now his last name, it turns out his last name is Allen. So it's pretty cool that he has the Patriots jersey, but a Ryan Allen red jersey in the wild, that's pretty impressive. So keep doing your thing, Nick, and thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. But no, and those are the things that you want to see from Drake Maye, right? Not only progressions, but then also learning from what you're doing, right? Okay, I'm running this. All right, I want to be able to hit that pass. But also we're not forcing those passes either, right? You still have to be able to read the defender, because if the defender keeps choosing the in, you have to take the short pass. There's nothing you can do about it, right?
Yeah.
And so for him to be able to do that, I think was good. And those are things that I liked to see. Now on the other side of it, Jacoby Myers. I'm going to do that all year. Jacoby Brissett throws that bad interception in the end zone. It was unclear whether he thought Hooper was sitting down in that spot and Hooper kind of faded away, which allowed that route to get undercut. Either way, it was really in tight coverage. You like to just kind of see him throw that ball away there, or at least, with the defender in his back pocket, throw it to the outside shoulder instead of the inside shoulder to try to give him an opportunity to use his length. But I just that was obviously a mistake. I just feel like the offense looks different with Drake Maye at quarterback, under center. It just looks different. And, that's not a slight on Jacoby Myers. That's not a slight on Jacoby. I told you I'm going to do it all damn year. That's not a slight on Brissett. I think Brissett is a competent player. I think that he can be a decent quarterback. But again, I just think it runs a little bit differently. I also liked how they switched up the offensive line on that touchdown drive. They kept the left side of the line the same. But the other three were different. They took out David Anderson, put in Nick Leverett, and they put the two rookies on the right-hand side. They put, Layden Robinson at right guard and Caden Wallace at right tackle. And I thought they both looked pretty good. Robinson's a guy I think has looked good, certainly looked good last Thursday night. And, of course, we'll have to go back and look at the tape. I thought he looked pretty good tonight, too. And so, those are one of the things for me where we might be getting to the point where a core four ain't getting it done at right tackle. He's just not getting it done at right tackle. And Vidarian Lowe certainly isn't getting it done at left tackle. And so I don't know if it's the right solution, but someone had pointed it out earlier in the week, and I don't remember who it was. Might have been Giardi, but basically saying that kick on one to right tackle, put Layden Robinson at right guard, and put Caden Wallace at left tackle, and just roll with it and just see what happens, right? Because both of those guys, again, tonight didn't look great. And so if you can get just replacement level play from Layden Robinson and Caden Wallace, I think it's better than what you're getting from a core four and low right now.
Well, I definitely want to go back and rewatch some of the tape and go check out the all 22 on the line, because I thought the first couple of drives were weird in that at no point did I really feel that great about the offensive line.
Right.
But they did move the ball, especially that second drive, like Jacoby Brissett's interceptions in the end zone. They were able to move the chains, and obviously it was a short field.
And he wasn't under pressure on that throw either.
No, like the offensive, in some ways, when Brissett was in there, I actually thought Brissett was more of an issue with pressure than the offensive line. Mm-hmm. There was one throw in there where he looked like he was trying to throw a pick on it, and Lowe gave up some pressure. But Lowe also pushed a rusher kind of around the pocket. Brissett had to step up to avoid it, and he slipped, which, some of that obviously is on the quarterback. I will say I thought there's been a lot of slipping. They got a new field turf this year. I'm just going to be monitoring that because that's not
I think
great.
didn't the guy get his ankle? I thought the guy grabbed his ankle.
No, he slipped.
Oh, he just slipped? Okay.
He tried to plant to push up and his foot just didn't do it.
Got it. Okay.
And he slipped, and then after that started to panic and just kind of threw the ball somewhere. And I think one area where with young quarterbacks you often see them struggle when they first come into the league, and one of the things people point to and say this is an area where young quarterbacks need to develop and can benefit from sitting is pocket presence. And I thought that Drake Maye had better pocket presence than Jacoby Brissett because the interception was also a play where it looked like Brissett thought he was going to get pressured and just kind of threw the ball. He had a little bit more time, and Austin Hooper wasn't really open there. Even if he does put that ball in the right place, it is still an incompletion. There were two other receivers he could have thrown to. Tyquan Thornton, he beat his man and won and could have had a touchdown if Brissett was looking that way. Pop Douglas was underneath on a little return route, and it might not have been complete, but he had a real shot at catching it, and he might have been able to get into the end zone had he done that. And I question the decision making a little bit there. But yeah, going back to what started this with the offensive line, they didn't look great. They weren't getting a ton of push, but they did move the ball. It is against the Eagles backups, but after hearing what we did on Tuesday, I think going out there and just looking like a regular questionable offensive line and not some monstrosity was it felt better to me. Maybe I'm alone here, but I was expecting, 3 and outs every possession with a sack every time, kind of like what we got on that last couple possessions of the game. And it wasn't that. It looked like a normal, slow offense. I did think it was notable that Vederian Lowe played a lot and Calvin Anderson did not play much, which I wonder if
when he did, it looked real bad. It looked real bad.
Calvin Anderson's in a rough spot right now, but I also wonder if they're trying to get a long look at Vederian Lowe, trying to get him a lot of reps. Because, the thing with Lowe is that when he's bad, it's bad. I think he had a penalty tonight. He had some bad losses. I do wonder, though, he was bad in the opener. I'm not entirely sold that Caden Wallace is actually better than him yet just because of the level of competition. And I think they're going to need to develop this offensive line, but I also don't absolutely hate the starting lineup if they can build chemistry and these guys can improve during the season. We'll see what happens, but I was expecting the worst offensive line in the NFL, and I think we got the third worst offensive line in the NFL, which is a step up.
I guess it is. When you're expecting 32 and you get 29, it's better than 32.
When you're 32, there's usually a gap. There's no floor on how bad 32 can be. If you're 29, there's a floor on how bad that can be. So
yeah. No, it's a good point. And the biggest issue that I have with it is that I just don't know how much better Vederian Lowe is going to look. I don't know how much better a quarter four is going to look at right tackle. I just don't know how much better he's going to look. And so do I think that they can grow a little bit? Maybe. Do I think that Layden Robinson and Caden Wallace can grow more over the course of the season? I do. And that's part of the reason why I do it. Now, the problem is that if you move Onwenu out to right tackle, which you don't want to do, but if you do it, you make the right guard position worse, even though you make the right tackle position better, right? Yeah. But the gap between right guard and I don't know if the gap is the same, right? I guess it's the question, right? Is he that much better than a core for right tackle that you can deal with the loss with going from Onwenu to Layden Robinson at right guard, right? That's the question that I don't know have the answer to.
I think the only people that I think can have that answer are the people in the building evaluating this.
Yeah.
And they're going to be after this, training camp's done. I don't think it's open to the public anymore. It's not going to be as open to the press even anymore. So if they want to go hog wild experimenting with the offensive line now, they can do that, and there's not going to be any media scrutiny of that. We're not going to find out until we see them, playing in a game.
Right.
So that I wonder if they just wanted to get some long looks at people in game action. They think this is what their best line is. We're going to let them play, and then we're going to go back. And now that nobody's watching, we can do what we want to do.
Yeah, that's certainly possible. That's certainly possible. So, look, the offensive line's an issue. It's something we're going to be talking about all year long. It seems like every time we do a show, it ends up 25 minutes of the offensive line because it's the biggest issue on the team right now, and it's something that they've ignored, unfortunately, for a long time. And we've gone through it. I don't want to go through the whole thing again, but they had a solid offensive line, and they just slowly became worse and worse. And so, that's the issue, unfortunately. Now, do you want to? Obviously, the Patriots traded Matthew Judon between our last show and today. They traded him yesterday on Wednesday. Do we want to talk about that quickly before we get into the defense?
Let's do. I have more offensive notes. We want to do a little more offense before we get
All right, let's do a
defense.
little more offense, and then we'll do a few more minutes of offense. We'll take a quick break. We'll start with Judon, and then we'll talk about the rest of the defense.
Yeah, I'm looking through my notes here. I thought Nick Leverett was kind of underwhelming.
Yeah,
all around. I had mentioned that I thought he was about a half tier worse than Ted Karras when we were talking about filling that kind of backup center guard role in the Patriots offense, and I think he might actually be a full tier down from Ted Karras, guy who's starting in the league now. Obviously, bad snap goes on the quarterback always, but notable, and especially when it's Maye. I was still learning the under center stuff, but I did think it was notable that happened with Leverett in there, and I just didn't think he doesn't get a ton of push in the running game. He's just not the strongest offensive lineman, and it shows up, which I thought was an issue. He let through a couple of pressures too. There were a couple that came right up that A gap, which was tough. Yeah. And there was
there was one when they both, him and I think Robinson, both pulled, and Kevin Harris got tackled from behind a guy that came through. Now, I don't know if it was a blitzing linebacker. I don't know if it was, City So was supposed to hook that guy. Obviously, I'm not, I'm watching it from behind, but I didn't see him where he came from. But, that wasn't on Leverett. But it was a weird play because it was a toss to the right. And, Kevin Harris gets tackled from behind because that guy comes through the A gap that Leverett had just vacated because he was pulling. And so that was one where, again, maybe the linebacker just read it, knew it was coming, and beat So to the spot, and and came right behind Leverett and made the tackle. I'm not really sure. I'd like to see that one on film, but that was a strange play.
Yeah, that was you talk about the guard, by the way. I thought it was notable. City So played a long time.
Yeah,
he was in, I think, either almost as long as Vidarian Lowe or exactly as long as Vidarian Lowe, and he did kind of look like there was that fumbled snap with that Joe Milton who was in.
Yes.
And I noticed So came up holding his hand after that. I think he stayed in the game, but just something to monitor. And that's, there's a guy who's going to be starting for you. And you never want to see a guy like that get hurt in the third quarter of a preseason game. That would really stink. But
seems strange that he was in there. But
yeah, this Eagles front is so talented that I'm not I wasn't as bothered by the offensive line, the starting line's performance today as I think others were, just because I don't think you're gonna face lines this talented most weeks. And I didn't think Okorafor looked great. Thought he looked like a regular bad starting tackle, but still a starting tackle. Just
right.
And I thought Vidarian Lowe looked like a regular bad starting left tackle. He had rough moments. I think he's got a lot to work through. I think you kind of start with this starting five, and you let Caden Wallace win one of the tackle jobs during the season at some point once he's ready, based on how the tackles actually perform in some live games. I think that's the way I do it. I don't think Layden Robinson's ready yet, and I think Robinson's a guy, you hopefully develop into someone who can take that Nick Leverett role next year. Probably not at center, but somebody who can be a super sub for you on the line.
Right.
Yeah, curious how they look against Washington. We didn't even touch on the receivers in here, by the way. What did you think about the receiving group tonight?
So, Jalen Polk had that nice play for 5 yards, where he faked two guys out, but he was invisible outside of that. Javon Baker, man, he made that nice catch that we talked about on the in route from Drake Maye. He had another catch, I believe. But then he also had the play where he gets muscled out of bounds and then drops the pass after that on the deep pass from Maye going down the sideline. He had the drop in the middle which was in traffic, but he pulls his arm down. He's going to get hit. He's bracing for impact instead of making the catch. And then, of course, he has the deep throw to Maye. And so this is why Baker was a 4th-round pick and not a 2nd-round pick. Javon Baker should have been a 2nd-round pick, but he's inconsistent. He doesn't make those plays consistently. And that's why he's a 4th-round pick and not a 2nd-round pick, right? Because if he made those plays consistently, he might have even been a 1st-round pick. But he's just not consistent enough. And so he has to develop that consistency if he's going to be able to have an impact this year. At the bottom of the roster, 2 guys that are fighting for roster spots right now is Kayshon Boutte and David Wallace. And they both showed out today. Kayshon Boutte made some really nice plays. He's been the only receiver really consistently making plays in either of these games. He had that gorgeous one-handed catch from Maye where Maye airmailed it to him and he came down with it anyways. And he had a few nice catches later on in the game too. And so he's a guy that is fighting for a roster spot, has said that he's confident he's going to make the roster. But I was happy with the way he played. He played as if, he wants to make the team and is going to make the team. We'll see if he does or not. But I was happy to see that from him at least. I think he's making a push for the roster. As far as David Wallace is concerned, I can't imagine he's actually going to make the roster, but he's a guy that has, without a doubt, earned himself a practice squad spot. And, if your kick returner or punt returner isn't working out and you don't love what you're getting from them, guess who's getting a call up from the practice squad? And, and he's shown some flash in the return game and he's shown some flash at wide receiver as well. And so, I think, he's got some work to do for sure, but he's a guy that's definitely making a push to get on the practice squad. Again, he's not making the active roster. I don't think he's going to get picked up by anyone, but it's a guy that could be on the practice squad for a year, come back next year, and we could be like, oh, okay, this guy actually looks pretty good. He has a chance to actually make the roster. And so, that's the type of guy. And he's a guy that everyone wants to root for, right? He's from the middle of nowhere, right? Virginia Bacon College or whatever it is, right? Like, it's
great story.
That's the story that you want, right? Those are the guys you want to root for. And so the fact that, that he's making a push like this is great. And so he's on the practice squad, hopefully, right? And you go from there. And Ashton mentions Jaquay Jackson, who got carted off. Seems like he's going to be done, unfortunately. But again, that's a situation now where, he's out for the year, which stinks, probably. We don't know that for sure, but probably goes on the IR, but has a chance to come back next year. He had some flashes in camp, obviously caught the touchdown pass from Joe Milton last weekend, and has really looked like a guy that can run crisp routes and, and make plays on the ball. And so I think that, he has an opportunity to make this team next year. We'll see, but I think he has an opportunity to make this team next year.
Yeah. I thought it was notable that Tyquan Thornton and Jalen Reagor were kind of swapping in and out with the starting offense. It feels like the two of them might be competing for one spot. And in that case, Jalen Reagor had a really nice kickoff return, which I think is notable. Yeah. Tyquan Thornton has one route. Like I thought Thornton looked pretty good. I thought they both looked good. I thought Thornton won routes. Reagor made a contested catch early from Brissett. That was really nice. That's an interesting competition. And Boutte, Boutte's been productive. His issue right now is that he is the best of the third stringers. And I just don't know if that's good enough to get you on this roster. Because there's a very clear top six. Like your top 2 receivers are healthy right now, seem to be Douglas and Osborne. And then you've got Thornton and Reagor in that next spot. We're going back and forth with the starting offense. And then Polk and then Javon Baker. That's 6 guys. And that's before you even get to Kendrick Bourne. So Boutte just kind of is with that next group right now, and it's done very well with his opportunities. Just, I think, again, still a question of if that's enough to crack the 53, but he does look good. I like Jalen Polk after the catch today. He had that one really nice move, two really nice moves where he was able to shake free and get some yards after the catch. Javon Baker, like you said, is inconsistent as we knew he was going to be. You see the highs, that throw. That deep throw, 50 yards plus in the air from Drake Maye to Javon Baker down the middle of the field and dropped into a bucket. Would have been a very nice catch. That would have been a tough catch to make, but Baker not able to come down with it. And I don't care as like I think this is an area we all knew Baker was going to have to improve. So that's the thing for him. Maye making that throw made me feel things I haven't felt about a New England quarterback in a long time. Like that's in terms of Patriots throws that I remember recently, that's up there with like Mac Jones to Kendrick Bourne up the seam against the Browns, for a touchdown. And Cam Newton on that deep throw to Demir Bird for a touchdown down in Houston, going way back. Like that's that throw was
you're not wrong.
Either of those. So made me feel awesome. That was pretty sick.
Yeah, I agree.
One more offense, actually two very quick offensive notes. JaMychal Hasty, I thought looked really good.
Yep.
When they give him some run, I think he is the front runner for that fourth running back spot. And I noticed that Jaheim Bell moved up the depth chart. He passed Jacob Warren and he passed Michael Petway. He was the tight end 4 on the roster if we include Hunter Henry in the conversation. And I mean, as long as if that's where he is and they think he's close with Mitchell Wilcox, I don't know how you could ever keep Mitchell Wilcox over him with what we've seen from Wilcox and what Bell has put on tape previously.
Yeah, and he got beat on one bad on a run block play. I can't remember if it was Ramondre or Kevin Harris. It doesn't matter. Either way, he was at tight end. Mitchell Wilcox was on the left side. He was on the right side. He got smoked inside. And they made a play in the middle. But, that's going to happen. He's not the best blocking tight end. you're okay with that. Petway had a bad drop, a real bad drop in the middle. I mean, it's going to be a 4-yard gain. But even still, it's like, catch the ball, kid. So to me, he has what his upside is significantly higher than either of those guys. He should be ahead of those guys, which he is, which is good. He didn't have any catches today. That didn't mean he didn't do anything. He just didn't have any catches. And so, I'd like to try to get him the ball a little bit more in space. But I thought overall, him at least being on the field and playing was a good sign. And again, he had that nice block, really kind of a stock block against that corner on the Drake Maye touchdown run. So he doesn't make that block, and Drake Maye's getting tackled for a loss, or certainly before he gets in the end zone. So,
one final thing. It's from the presser. Tayler Kyles tweeted this out. Gerard Mayo said the offensive line situation would not keep the team from starting Drake Maye if he beats Jacoby Brissett for the quarterback 1 job. I think it's worth putting that out there.
Yep.
All I'll say on this is that if it was my decision based on just what was seen tonight between Brissett and Drake Maye, but who would be starting quarterback week 1, I would be starting Drake Maye. Obviously, there's a lot more that goes into it than what we saw tonight. But if that was all the information we had, I'd be starting Drake Maye.
Yeah. By the way, he also mentioned a, quote, dramatic drop-off from the first unit offensive line to the second and third unit offensive line. It's not exactly what you want to be hearing.
And I think he said it was in terms of knowing what to do. I think was part of that quote, which is, if you stink, you stink. But if you don't know what to do, you just can't be put on the field no matter how good you are. And that might be the issue with why Caden Wallace and Layden Robinson aren't playing with the top guys too. Yeah. They might want them to practice a little bit more, and they're going to get chances to earn a starting job as we progress throughout the season and improve.
Certainly might be right. All right, let's get to a quick ad, and then we'll talk about the defense. We'll hit some Matthew Judon thoughts real quick first, and then we'll go from there.
Mm-hmm. Nothing beats the sights and sounds at Fenway Park when the Sox take on the Yankees. From the smell of good Fenway Frank to the cheers of the crowd, there's no better way to spend a summer evening. And with Game Time, you can make sure you're there. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. The Red Sox return to Fenway from the All-Star break in a few weeks to host the Yankees and Mariners, and using the Game Time app, you can quickly find the best value tickets for any game by looking for the blue check mark on the map. And with all-in pricing, the price you see is the price you pay, no hidden fees. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
All right, cool. So let's talk about you want to talk about the Judon trade first, and then we'll get into the defense.
Yeah.
I think it kind of leads into the defense. And look, Am I happy about the Matthew Judon trade? Not necessarily. I would have preferred for Matthew Judon to be on this team, to retire a Patriot, if I'm being completely honest with you. However, you were able to get a top 90 pick for him, right? Probably going to be a pick in the 80s, maybe even a pick in the 70s. You never know how Atlanta is going to be this year. I know Atlanta, people think is going to be good with Kirk Cousins coming off that, Achilles injury and everything else, but maybe they're not. Who knows? And so and Ashton said it too, and Phil Perry said this as well, I was surprised to see them get a third-round pick, to be completely honest with you. I was also surprised to see that the Falcons may not extend him, which I thought was really strange. Pulling a John Lackey move. For those of you that are too young to remember what I'm talking about, do you know what I'm talking about, Matt?
I have some idea. I think you've mentioned it on the show before.
Yeah, so John Lackey had like an injury clause in his contract that he signed with the Red Sox, and it basically said if he missed the majority of a season or X amount of games or whatever, that the final year of his contract would go down to $500,000 for the year. And he would lose out on $20 million or whatever it was. And so, of course, he was like, I'm not playing for $500,000. Like, screw you guys. And so the Red Sox traded him to the Angels, or I don't even remember where they traded him. They traded him somewhere. And he said, no, I'll play on my $500,000 contract. So he played on the contract that he was on when he wouldn't play for the Red Sox, but it was a matter of principle. He's like, no, I'm not playing for you out of principle because you wouldn't do that. We won a championship and you're not going to pay me. And so screw you guys, I'm out of here. But he played on the contract. And so it sounds like Judon's going to do the same thing in Atlanta, which I think is interesting. But, I thought it was good of them. And I thought Gerard Mayo did a nice job of, look, be a good doobie, come here, come to practice, work hard, show the rest of the league that you still care, and then we'll take care of you. We'll get you out of here. We'll get you wherever you want to go and go from there. And so that's one of those things that I look at and say, like, that makes a lot of sense, I think. And so, I'm not sure exactly where we're going to go from here, but I like the idea of getting a third-round pick back. You're getting a day 2 pick back for Matthew Judon, who's 32, coming off an injury, hasn't finished out any of the 3 seasons strong. And now he's just a little bit older. So I don't hate the deal. But again, like the guy as a person, as a teammate, as a player, but I think the return for him was good.
Yeah. Not a whole lot to add there other than that it does definitely feel like the team kind of got him to buy back in at practice and told him, hey, you buy in, right. make things look nice, help us out on the trade return, we'll send you somewhere.
Right.
And, Atlanta, place where he can keep rocking the red sleeves, I think, if he wants to, which is fun. I'll be rooting for him down there. But, yeah, I think it became clear that Judon's looking to be paid like a premier pass rusher based on the production he had the last time he was healthy, which I understand. The Patriots are looking at someone who is a couple years removed from that now, coming off an injury, turned 32 today, and their championship window and saying, we love you, we want you on this team. We're not going to pay you what you think you're worth because you aren't worth that to this football team.
Right.
And once you get that impasse, your options are he stays, maybe causes a locker room issue if he's playing on that contract. And it's a bad example for some of your younger players and all the stuff that can come with that, and then leaves in free agency anyway. Or you traded me, get something back. The fact that you're in that spot and you get a top 100 pick, love it. I'm very, very happy with the return. And, obviously there's what the Patriots can do taking a player with that pick, but there's also what they can do trading it. They can turn around and trade that third for a veteran at some point if they need to. They can include it in a trade to move up in the draft, move down in the draft. Lots of different options that you're going to have. So this team needs youth. It needs talent. That gives them flexibility going forward for a guy who was not going to be part of their team going forward.
Yeah, totally true. And not just that, I also look at it and think, if you weren't going to sign him long-term, but you were going to give him more this year to stay this year, I'm happy you trade him instead. What's the point of having him this year? Who cares? Then you're going to let him walk at the end of the year. You're going to spend a crap ton of money at the end of the year, which means you're not getting a comp pick back for him. And so that's one of those things for me where I looked at it and just say, man, like that's a smart move by them. Also, old man mom mentioned this. Where is it? Dog, when the Falcons go all black, let me just paint a picture for you. And I don't even know if they're going to do this. They should, because the Falcons jerseys with the red helmets and the black shirts, like, dude,
They have the those throwbacks, the red helmets, the black jerseys, white pants, and they got those red and black socks.
Bro,
the red sleeves with that are going to look tough.
The red sleeves with the black shirt and the red helmet. Woo-wee, that's going to be fire.
Yeah, for anyone interested in that aesthetic in particular, Falcons are doing it week 4. They're doing it week 5 and Thursday Night Football, and they're doing it week 16. So those are your 3 Falcons throwback dates.
That's it. There you go. Tune in for those. Oh my goodness. Assuming that Matthew Judon isn't hurt, but so anyway, so let's get into the defense that's currently there.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, just one quick note, and I mentioned this before. Bill Belichick does it again. He did it with Stephon Gilmore. Now did it, again with Matthew Judon, right? Gives him money up front. Guy gets hurt that year, won't extend him, and then they got to move on from him. Now, Stephon Gilmore wasn't willing to play ball. And so the Patriots got literally nothing back. They got a 6th round pick in the following draft back, but the Patriots now get a 3rd round pick at least, which is good. But this is another situation where it's like, I don't want you to ever handle a contract situation like this again. Do not give the money from the year after to the guy this year. Just don't do that, because then you're just kicking the can down the road and you're going to have the same exact problem the next year when he's a year older. It's just stupid. So either extend him or trade him. That's it. That's the way I feel. So,
well, and if you're going to do that and pull some kind of an advance for a player, you do that when you're in a championship window and trying to go all in for a season. And in that scenario, I don't care that much, because you're going for something right now. But if it hurts you later, you've already accepted that risk. But yeah, no, it's tough for situations like this. If you play that game and you give somebody in advance, you open yourself up to knowing that the player has leverage going forward in negotiations. That can be acceptable, but you're playing with fire when you do it in a situation like this.
Well, and that's really what it comes down to, right? Like, you don't want to give too much leverage, but at the same time, I think the way that they handled it as best they could, to be honest with you, and to have what happened last week happen, and then to recover from that, I think was big, and it shows a lot about who Maye is as a coach and what this culture can kind of turn into. And it shows a lot about Judon as well. But the fact that he was able to get him to buy back in and basically say, hey, look, we need you here, because, if you don't show up again, no one's going to want to trade for you. And if no one's going to trade for you, we're not just giving you away, and so either you're going to be stuck here on this contract, or you can come to work and we'll trade you,
Yeah, Owen, is good job from Wolf on that. I do question taking the Falcons pick over the Bears pick for the 3rd round.
Me too. Yeah.
Would pretty much always take the pick from a team in a tougher division with a rookie quarterback and a team in a weaker division with a veteran quarterback. But, it is what it is. They liked that Falcons pick better, apparently. Those are the 2 teams involved in it. So, yeah.
I also wonder if they asked him, right? If they went to him and said, look, Atlanta or Chicago, where do you want to go? We're getting a 3rd round pick for both of them. It's probably about the same.
Yeah, within 10 picks of one another.
Right. So, we'll send you where you want to go. You played nice with us. We'll send you where you want to go.
Yeah. But then this kind of puts a lot of emphasis tonight on the rest of that front 7 and what it looks like. Mm-hmm. I think I had 2 observations here. One, they were able to get pressure. You saw 5 sacks. I thought Keon White had a very good game, which you wanted to see. I thought Trevor Farms had another good game. Thought Joshua Uche had a good game. I thought Oshane Zimenez looked good when he played.
I always keep saying Zimenez.
But the other thing on this, and I had said this last week, it was the same thing. A lot of blitzes tonight. A lot of blitzes. That's how they're generating pressure this year. They're trying to get, they're trying to scheme things up, which I like. I love being aggressive. It's going to put stress on this secondary. So I think you're going to be able to get pressure. I think you're going to be able to replace Judon in that way by just having a whole bunch of different guys and, you game plan pressure week by week. But I think it's going to cost you, and you probably allow one or two more big plays every game because you're relying so heavily on it.
Yeah. That certainly could be the case. I will say you still can't run on the Patriots. You still can't do it. And Anthony Jennings was not able to generate any pass rush whatsoever. But if you run near Anthony Jennings, you're not going anywhere. You're just not. He's just not. If there's a play in the backfield on a running play, there's like a 75% chance that Anthony Jennings is involved in it. And he's just an absolute monster against the run. He's not going to help you in the pass game, but that's okay. That's all right. And I don't even mind him being out there for passing game situations because, he at least is going to occupy a guy or two, right? And then let other guys come off of him. Maybe he beats his guy one-on-one every now and again. So, but you're totally right. Like, they had 5 sacks tonight. I thought they had kind of consistent pressure against the quarterbacks out there. Now, is it their starters? No. Is it, A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts and those guys? No. But still, I think that I think it was good to see anyways. And it's something that they might have to generate that pressure by blitzes, but you live with that. I thought Josh Bledsoe made a few nice plays. And I thought, I was happy to see that. I think Del Pettis just keeps making plays. I don't know if Del Pettis is going to make this team actually. But I really like what he's doing out there. And I think that he's given himself a chance to at least make the practice squad, if not actually make the team.
Well, I think I was impressed by the depth of how many players they had out there defensively that looked good. Like, it was everybody at safety looked good. Every linebacker looked good. Like, I didn't think there was somebody in that room who looked at a play starting to cut a good player when roster cut downs happen in a few weeks here. I thought most of the secondary looked good. I thought, obviously, Marcel Style got picked on late. But when it was, what was it? Wilson, Austin, and Bolden all out there. I thought all 3 of them were making good plays, which is a good position to be in.
Right.
I did write down Christian Gonzalez seemed to get beat twice by John Ross. He got burned down the field by John Ross on a play that ended up being incomplete, but Ross beat him. And then Ross caught kind of a slant underneath him on a contested catch where Gonzalez wasn't able to break it up. So just there's been
you can't cover that any better. Can't cover that any better.
Oh yeah, I think it's only notable in the context of Gonzalez. Sometimes, like, one of the weak points of his game in college was not always being physical enough at the catch point to knock the ball loose. So it just kind of caught my eye of it's John Ross, a guy who's not known for being physical at the catch point, beating you there. I don't think I love that, but I just the undercurrent of Gonzalez being good but not elite during training camp, I think, is kind of continuing. And I think that's one of those, I think I've talked about it on the show before. I never quite got as high on Christian Gonzalez for this season as some others did right off the bat, at least, because this is his rookie year still, essentially.
Right.
He played 3.5 games last year. He still has to make his rookie mistakes. He still has to go through his growing pains, unless he comes out like Sauce Gardner and is able to dominate from day one, which I'm not sure anyone really expected from him. He's going to have some growing during this season. So it's none of this is a panic moment. None of this is I'm concerned about Christian Gonzalez. More so it's hey, I just noticed he gave up a couple things, and I think he's still getting better at the position. He's so young still too.
Well, and that's the thing. I don't to think he's going to be a top 5 corner in the NFL or top 10 corner in the NFL or something like that this year, I think is a little unreasonable. I do think that he's a guy that, can develop into that lockdown corner. He's just so smooth. He's so quick. He's in the right position. He's a pretty willing tackler from what we saw last year and what we've seen in training camp this year too. So I do think that, I have high hopes for him. I don't think he's going to be an all-pro or a Pro Bowler even. But I do think
this season.
This season, right. Yes, yes. Thank you. But I think that he can grow into that. And so we'll see.
But I think he could play at that level by the end of the season.
Right.
He has that in him. But, look at the first 2 games of the season. he's going to be handling, Jamar Chase or T. Higgins on every play, basically, in week 1. And he's going to have to deal with Tyler Lockett or DK Metcalf or JSN in week 2 in Seattle. I think we should be prepared for a situation where he might have a couple ugly plays in those games.
Yep.
And that shouldn't diminish what we think of him long-term. That'll be his, 5th and 6th starts of his career going against guys like that. There's going to be growing pains.
Well, who'd they start the season with last year? They started the season with Philly. So he had A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith.
And he broke up a pass to Smith to give the offense a chance to win that game, too.
Yep. And they played the Dolphins, and he had a nice interception on, which was probably a little bit of an underthrown ball to Tyreek Hill, but nevertheless, came off his guy, made a nice play on it. And who was the second team that they played? They played because that was the third game of the season, I forget.
No, Miami was week 2.
Miami was week 2? So who was week 3?
Yeah, they started with back-to-back home games. How am I totally forgetting week 3 last year? Week 3 wasn't Dallas, was it?
No. Let's see. Hold on. This is great radio. It was
somebody in the comments. Oh, yeah, I was at that game. That's inexcusable.
You were at that game. That's right. In New York. And then
that Jets offense was atrocious.
Did he get hurt in the Cowboys game, right? At the beginning of the Cowboys game? Yeah. So, they got smoked in that game. But
yeah, he and Judon both. But
right.
Yeah, no, I like the depth at corner. I'm going to be very curious to see who actually makes this roster. I think there's a couple different ways you could do it, but I feel good about the guys they have there. I don't think this will necessarily be a top 5 defense anymore with no Judon and Barmore. Presumably out for the year.
I would assume at this point. Yeah.
But I could see this go, especially the way they're approaching this. I could see this going the way things went in Minnesota last year in some capacity, where their pass defense, despite not having very much talent whatsoever, was really good because they one of my favorite stats from last year. They led the league in the number of times that they blitzed. I think sent at least 6 or 7 rushers or whatever that. I forget where the exact threshold was on it, but they led the league in most blitzes, and they also led the league in most snaps with 8 players in coverage, which meant that every play they're either rushing everyone or they're all back, and you don't know which one it's going to be. And I think with how smart New England's linebackers and defensive backs are, you can play like that in passing downs. You can really confuse quarterback. You can bring all kinds of exotic things because you trust everybody to execute on the back end and make things right. And when you couple that with the fact that this is still, I think, the best run defense in the NFL, at least the top 3 run defense in the NFL, with how good Jeremiah Farms has looked, who I think might start next to Godshaw week 1. He's been fantastic.
Right. Yep.
Then there's no reason this still can't be a top 10 defense. That's for sure.
Right. I agree with you. And by the way, just one more guy to mention, give a quick shout out to is Raekwon McMillan. Raekwon McMillan played fantastic today. Was all over the place on special teams and on defense. I think he had 8 tackles tonight. And so that's a guy that you're really looking for. So I was happy to see him do well. So let's take a quick break. Let's do a quick break.
Stock up, stock down.
And then stock up, stock down. Yep. So Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community today. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks. With as little as 4 correct picks, you can turn $10 into $1,000. 1 Caleb Williams passing yard gets you 1 win on Prize Picks every week in September. That's right. Only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every football weekend in September. 4 weeks of free W's. Don't miss the deal on Prize Picks because it's gone when September ends. Now, what I'm going to be doing, later on in the year. Now, you pick 2 to 6 players, right? As we said. So one of those wins is going to be Caleb Williams. You're going to pick that every time because why wouldn't you pick that every time, right? But I'm also going to be going, you also have the full year stat projections. So I'm going to be going with Patrick Mahomes for more than 4,300 passing yards and for Aaron Rodgers for less than 3,750 passing yards because I'm always betting on the Jets to lose. Come on, this is what we're doing. So you're going to download the Prize Picks app today and use the promo code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks. Run your game. All right. So stock up, stock down. You want to start with your first stock up?
Yeah, I'll start on the positive side. I'm going with the free space on the bingo card on this one. Drake Maye.
Yep.
He showed everything I think we wanted, and some of the questions that we had with him, thought he looked fantastic. How did he handle NFL athleticism? Check. No worries. Mm-hmm. Was he able to read NFL defense? Obviously, this is preseason defense. Was he able to read them? Check. No issues. Was he able to deliver the ball accurately? Pretty much a check. I think he only had one or maybe two bad throws. Kayshon Boutte did make a really nice one-handed catch on a throw Maye had that went a little bit high. Was he able to have command of the offense at the line? Check. He was audibling and changing things and making that work. A lot of the things that I was worried about with him, he passed with flying colors tonight. Pocket presence, too, like I mentioned before. That's a big old check right there.
Yep.
Ability in the red zone, that was a check. So, I mean, it's hard not to be very happy with what we saw from Maye tonight.
Agreed. Stuck up for me is Joey Slye. Joey Slye looks like he has the upper hand right now in the kicking competition. Now, of course, unfortunately, Joe Milton and Joe Milton and Bailey Zappi were both unable to drive the Patriots down to get them in field goal range to try for a game-winning field goal. But, Chad Ryland doesn't get an opportunity to kick a field goal. They rotated. What they've been doing is they've been rotating. And so Chad Ryland kicks an extra point. Good for him. He hits it. But Joey Slye gets both field goals, including a 51-yarder, hits both of them right down the middle. And so, it has felt like Joey Slye is kind of been taking that job from Chad Ryland, and I think it continued today. And so we'll see. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but it does seem like Joey Slye is going to be that guy. So,
can I add a little something to that?
Sure can.
Can we stock up the whole kicking game and
sure can.
Kickers? I thought both kickers have looked good in general in the preseason from what we've seen, and from where we were at the end of last season, getting to a point where it feels like the Patriots are going to be at regular NFL kicking levels this year. That makes me feel a ton better. Even if it's rough, even if it isn't quite where we want to be, I think we're out of the emergency territory at the position right now, which is a world of improvement.
Yeah, agreed. So,
stock down.
Let's do it.
Marcellus Dial. I hate to do it to him. Thought he looked really good in the joint practice from what we saw. He got picked on late tonight. You saw his lack of quickness show up a couple times, stumbling out of a break at one point. Got beat at the catch point by Nada, that bigger Eagles receiver.
Yeah.
And, it's just one of those nights for him. I think with how good the rest of the corner room is, I think it's going to be tough for him to make the roster now. The plus side is I think he's still a guy you want on the practice squad. I think he's got talent. He's got length. He's physical. He does all the things you want in a corner. He's just has some growth and development to do. But, really rough night for him.
Yeah. Agreed. Stock down for me is the backup center position, whether it was Nick Leverett, whether it was Liam Fornadell, which I don't know what the hell he's doing at center. But, the backup centers had multiple issues with snaps. I believe that Drake Maye and Joe Milton and Bailey Zappi all had a fumbled snap. Of course, the last one was 100% on the center as he just rolled it to Zappi. But, that's something that is an issue. And David Andrews has had injury issues in the past. I was hoping that Nick Leverett would kind of be that super sub, and you mentioned it. He's kind of a little bit of a tier below Ted Karras. And so, I'm concerned with that backup center spot. Now, I think Leverett will be fine there. I think he'll be fine. And you just hope you don't have to use him, right? And you just kind of go from there. They have enough depth at guard that they'll be okay if a guard goes down. If a center goes down, it's going to have to be Leverett. And I don't know. It doesn't look great. Charles Turner, who's an undrafted free agent, they're playing Liam Fornadell at center. They don't want Charles Turner at center so badly. So doesn't look good for him.
I definitely do wonder. They have mentioned at multiple points throughout the offseason that cross-training on the offensive line is big for them, and I wonder if they know Charles Turner can be a center, so they're not worried about him being in that spot, and they want to give the other backup guards the opportunity to try center to see if it gives them the versatility.
I guess,
But
but is Turner playing though?
I don't know if he played tonight. He did play the last game. He played at center
Right.
the last game, but yeah, Fornadell struggled there. Mafe has struggled with snapping, so yeah, that's a spot where I have to wonder if they sign a backup center to the practice squad, somebody who's a veteran, somebody who they know they can promote when necessary, who can just be good at snapping the football, because that is it's an important thing to get right. Stock up for me. I mentioned it before, but Michael Hasty. Couple notes here. He had a big reception. He had the longest catch of the day for 23 yards on a screen. And the reason it was so successful, the Eagles brought a blitz, and he sold the heck out of the pass block pickup on the rush. And then cut right outside. He and Maye were on the same page, broke it into space, and really picked up ground on it. I think he's a really nice backup to Antonio Gibson to have on the roster. Doesn't hurt that he plays a ton of special teams. Going back to that joint practice, he was the one on the kickoff unit that picked up a fumble the Eagles had when there was a loose ball and ran it in. And they like having running backs on their kickoff coverage unit, and that's something I believe he was in their starting kickoff unit. So, all right, I see a guy who can be your backup third down back. They trust to run into the tackles. Veteran, can play special teams. I like the other running backs they had in camp too, but I think Hasty really has the inside track on, if not the running back 3 job, definitely the running back 4 job.
So I totally agree with that. Yeah, that's a good one. Stock up, I think, and we kind of mentioned it a little bit, but for me, it's Jaheim Bell. And Jaheim Bell, it's not necessarily the production on the field. It's just that he was on the field, and he did make some good blocks out there. He was out there, and just the fact that he's out there playing, I think, is a good thing for the Patriots. And so, slight stock up, maybe not a huge stock up, but I think now I can confidently say I think that he's past Petway and whoever the heck the other guy is. That's the other tight end. Thank you, Jacob Bourne. The 2 guys that certainly will not be on the team. And so I think he's clearly passed both those guys, and we'll see if he can pass Mitchell Wilcox for that tight end 3 by the end of camp.
Yep, I right there with you. I had him on my list for the same reasons. Stock down, I'm going to go Calvin Anderson here. Didn't really play that much. Didn't look good in the preseason opener. It kind of feels like he is definitely the 4th tackle right now and somebody they're managing. And I think if you were just going to pick offensive linemen who you think are good enough to make this team, you would only be picking 8, and Calvin Anderson would not be one of them. You would be picking 3 tackles in Lowe, Wallace, and Okorafor. You'd have the 3 starters on the interior plus Leverett and Robinson, and I would not be shocked if this team cuts down to 51 or 52 on cut down day and they try to trade for or sign the tackle to fill a spot here, because they clearly don't trust Calvin Anderson. I don't think he's looked very good. I don't think he has an area of strength either. There's not one calling card that you can rely on with him in there where you can say, hey, he can do this, so we trust him in there. And I think it's a rough spot.
Yeah, that's a good point. He's looked really bad, unfortunately. I had high hopes for him. Can I do 2 in the stock down here? Do you mind if I do 2?
Go for it.
I'm going to go Javon Baker and Jacoby Brissett.
Those were the other 2 guys that I had in my stock down.
So there you go. So Javon Baker, look, he's a rookie. I talked about it before. He was a 4th round pick for a reason, and it's because of the inconsistency. And so, but I think at this point, everyone was really excited about him. And now it's like, all right, let's bring those expectations back just a little bit, right? He's still a rookie. He's got to develop some of that consistency before he can really make an impact this year on the field. And then Jacoby Brissett, I thought the offense just looked better with Drake Maye at quarterback. And, you tweeted this out, I think, during the last ad break, that, if we're just looking at this game, Drake Maye is QB1, right? Now, we're not just looking at this game, but, I'd like to see him get some snaps with the ones and see what happens because the offense looked different under Drake Maye than it did under Corey Brissett. He just didn't look comfortable in the pocket through that bad interception to Mitchell Wilcox. Almost had another one, which almost certainly would have been a pick six when he fell down and threw it over Pop's head. Pop kind of tipped it up in the air, and that would have been a pick six if a guy had been close enough to make that play. So just didn't look great out there, unfortunately.
Yeah, I fully agree on both of those. And I think, one of the things that's notable, the play that was an interception by Jacoby Brissett, it's a 3rd and 3 from the 8-yard line. When Brissett is out there, you're either trying to steamroll a run or you're trying to throw in a really condensed window, which means when the quarterback does make a mistake, you can get things like what happened. I mean, that's one of the things. You haven't seen The Wire, have you?
No.
Oh man, now I had a great quote for this moment.
Do it.
The great quote in The Wire where somebody makes a mistake in it. And the guy's saying, hey, all you have to do is mess up once, and this can happen. And how are you never going to mess up once? How are you never going to be slow once? You're throwing in the red zone. If that's how you have to live, you're going to make mistakes. And when you make mistakes in that area, they tend to get punished because of how congested things are. Then you look how the offense was with, Drake Maye out there. They get into a situation like that. 3rd and goal from the 4-yard line, and they could just break out QB run game, and it's a walk-in touchdown. The difference between those two guys in that situation, I think, says a lot about them because both of them are going to make mistakes with accuracy. Both of them are going to make mistakes with reading defenses. One of them gives you the ability to run.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just...
Yeah. Well, and here's the other thing, right? Okay, you saw that keep there from Drake Maye. Well, the next time you come out, you run the exact same action. Jaheim Bell goes for the block and then just swim moves over the defensive back and is wide open by himself in the corner of the end zone, and Maye just pops it to him for a touchdown, right? Like when you have to pay attention to the running game from the quarterback, it changes what you're trying to do. So
changes the math. I like it. Right. Defense in the NFL is in a lot of ways just one big math problem.
Yep.
Trying to account for
an extra guy, accounting for an extra guy
on
tough.
the board.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
We know, watching New England's defense for many years, as Bill was trying to figure out the best way to handle that. That's
right. One more stock up. You got one more stock up for me?
Yeah. Did we mention Raekwon McMillan in the stock up?
That was mine. That was the one I had left too.
Yeah.
Was Raekwon McMillan. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was awesome. He brought the hammer all day. Mm-hmm. Did we mention Keon White in the stock up?
We didn't. So that's a good one to mention too. So so McMillan and Keon White. Yeah.
Yeah, big day, big night for him. And then I'm going to throw Jalen Reagor in here just because I think he was a guy who really could get boxed out for a roster spot if he's not the best fast guy with Tyquan Thornton, and if other guys can edge him out on special teams. I think he got a big kickoff return tonight as part of the starters with that unit with Antonio Gibson back there. And I think that's really big for his odds of making the roster. Makes a catch with the starters, big return, that'll keep you around. Which I also think if you look ahead to game day actives, who they're going to put out there, you talk about Jalen Baker, you talk about Jalen Reagor. Both of these guys are players who contribute on special teams now. They got Baker out there with the punt team. They got him out there with the kickoff team. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a huge key for Baker right now. Somebody who's inconsistent. Last time it took a receiver in the second and one in the fourth. The fourth rounder was Josh Boyce, a guy who didn't really do much outside of being a receiver. So he never played. He's always inactive. And you just kind of forget about him. And then that's it. And Baker's a guy where, all right, you want to be on the field, you want to be in uniform on Sundays, do a little extra on special teams. That way you are there to make a play when the opportunity arises, and you're not getting beat out by a guy like Jalen Reagor for that spot. Right.
Agreed. All right, we got to get going because Tayler and Mike are going to be jumping on in a minute as well. So we want to get out of here before they get in here. One quick note, though. Someone was talking about there's a huge argument going on in the chat about, quarterbacks jumping, sitting behind players, and Rodgers and Brady both sitting behind Pro Bowlers and so on and so forth and all this other crap. And, if the quarterback in front of him isn't good, he shouldn't play or he should play. I've just a reminder. Just a reminder. I just want to remind you. There's a guy in LA by the name of Justin Herbert. Pretty good. He's a pretty good quarterback. People seem to like him. The guy ahead of him was Tyrod Taylor. And the only reason that Justin Herbert went in the first place is because the trainer punctured his lung when they were trying to give him a shot in the back. Okay? So I'm just going to sit here and say I'm using the facts, and I'm looking at it saying he can play behind Brissett even if he's better than Brissett. If they don't feel as though he's ready, I don't have a problem with that, right? If they think he's ready, then great, start him, right? But that's the way I feel about it, And so, and look, it is what it is. I don't hate it. You're not thinking about 2024. You are a little bit, but you're thinking about the future. That's what you're thinking about. And by the way, Nagan, he's not learning anything from Tyrod Taylor. He's not learning from the guy ahead of him. Okay? And so, Herbert's a bum. That's hysterical. But it just, it is what it is. And so that's, that's the way I feel about it. If that's what they want to do and they want to protect him a little bit, I got no problem with that. After seeing what we saw tonight, I'm confident that Drake Maye has to play at some point this year. Maybe it's 2 games, maybe it's 3 games, but he needs some reps this year in a real game against real number one defenses. That's what I want to see. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Doesn't mean it has to be week 1. Could be week 12. Could be week 15. I don't care. It's got to happen at some point.
When it's possible that Maye looked as good as he did tonight, in part because of joint practices, and he got to go against this defense before, look at some film, prepare, and then go back out against them. But that's still a good sign because that's life in the NFL, is watching things on tape, going out there, trying things, going back and looking at tape, but then fixing things. So if that's what it is, being able to make those adjustments is awesome. We'll see how much he plays next week against Washington. Get a little bit of a break, 10 days until the next game. So this is Patriots are the first preseason game of week 2, like standalone. Nobody else plays until Saturday, and then they have the very last game of week 3. So nice long break here to prep for that last one. We'll see how much time Maye gets, but I'll just point out this is around the time, like this week in particular, is where Mac Jones cemented that he was taking that starting job away from Cam Newton. Yeah, Mayo said the offensive line's not going to be why they don't play somebody. Said they're going to play the best quarterback. Tonight doesn't necessarily change that because there's a lot of information we don't have, but it looks good. Yeah.
Yep. Certainly looked good tonight. And so we'll see. We'll see if that can continue, and we'll see, if that continues into the regular season. But I just think it was encouraging at the very least. And that's all you can ask for in the preseason, So it gives us something to talk about. And I'll tell you what, the backpedaling that we are going to hear from the Boston media over the next week is going to be legendary.
It's really funny that we're in a week we're going from the 98.5 callers being like Joe Milton. Should Joe Milton start to should Drake Maye start?
Correct.
I love football. Love this time of year, man.
Oh, brother. So anyways, all right. So that's what we got. Thanks for tuning in. Chat, thanks for blowing us up as always. I appreciate you guys. And we'll be back on Monday night. I would assume Monday night probably. And then we'll go from there. I can tell you the following week will be on Tuesday night because that's cut down day, the 27th. But nevertheless.
So schedule should be what? Next Monday?
Monday and
next week because the game's on Sunday. So we'll see how it looks.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a
long week.
Yeah, unless we do a show
next week, Sunday after the game, and then Tuesday after.
And then Tuesday. That's what I would think. I would think maybe instead of doing Thursday, we do like a Wednesday, Sunday next week or something like that. So
yeah, we'll put out something on the no longer the Bird app.
But you get the idea. Throw notifications on YouTube, and you'll get a notification when we create a show, and that solves your problem. So, anyways, thanks for tuning in, guys. We really appreciate it, and we'll talk to you a few times next week.